What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam. In this episode, Richie and I share our top goals for 2017 and encourage you to think about your own goals too. We also go a step further and talk about what systems and techniques you can use to make sure you have the best shot of achieving your goals. What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam, the show where we have non-serious conversations about very serious topics. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
And I am Richie from Marmalead. And if you don't know what Marmalead is the best market research and Etsy SEO tool for serious sellers. So if you think your shop could use some extra views that also turn into sales, you need to check out Marmalead, but only if you're a serious seller. All right, so Gordon, what do we...
No, I was just going to say Marmalead also makes it so that we can do this podcast, which we both really enjoy doing. So it's a good thing. Yeah, so today's topic, I think, is what you're going to ask me about. And
I was. We're going to talk about that.
Today, we are talking about New Year's resolutions or goals, but with a little bit of a spin to it. We're not just going to kind of go over the basics of, coming up with resolutions and goals and sharing what ours are, which we will do. But we're going to take it a little bit further and talk a little bit about some things you can put in place that will help you actually hit those goals. Anybody can kind of come up with a goal or a resolution, but actually following through with it is a challenge. That's the hard part, right? So today we're going to talk a little bit about stuff that can help you make sure you're hitting those goals you've set up.
Makes sense. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, Gordon, help me hit my goals.
All right, man. Blood, sweat, and tears.
Perfect. The end. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
We'll see you guys next time. All right. So first goal for me is probably a really standard goal, and I'd be willing to bet that at least 75% of people who come up with New Year's resolutions probably have one that's just like this. But I have three, and my first one is to be healthier, and the way I'm going to measure that is by losing weight. So my goal is to lose 50 pounds throughout the year of 2017, which, I mean, it's kind of aggressive. That's a lot of weight, and that's kind of a big goal for me. I'm definitely going to have to work at it. But, I've got a year to do it, and I think that if I stay with it, I'll be able to hit that by the end of the year. It's not so much, again, like the weight that really concerns me as much as like feeling healthier and having energy and just feeling like I'm in better shape than I am right now. Maybe like shape that I've been in the past, like high school and college aged. But over the years, it tends to slip. And I'd like to get back to something where I feel like I'm in a healthier spot in my life. And I'm just going to measure that with weight. There's a bunch of ways to measure it, but that's an easy one. I can jump on the scale and keep track of where that is, other than just like, how am I feeling about myself right now?
Good call. Yeah, high school, college, those are common ways to put it. Before kids, that's another.
Yeah. Well, and before office jobs too, right? Like coming out of college, like I walked everywhere in college. I was going from the dorms to classes to apartments to like all over the place, right? I didn't have a car. Maybe some people were fortunate enough to have a car, but I walked everywhere. And I could eat whatever I wanted to, and it didn't even matter just because of my level of activity. And then you go from that into a position where you're probably at an office job and you're sitting most of the day, and you get up maybe to go to the bathroom, to get water, to get coffee, whatever. But it's a total change in activity level, and I think that sneaks up on a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think during those years when you're like, oh, my next class is on the other side of campus, you're like, this is super inconvenient.
Yeah.
It was actually probably good for you. Because
Yeah.
in the office, when everything is really close, you have to make up a lot of steps to make that up.
Yeah.
As opposed to, my class is here, I go across campus, but then of course my next class can't be in that building.
Yeah.
I gotta go over here. Next thing you know, you've walked a couple miles.
Right. And it allows you to drink all of the beer and eat all of the pizza that you do when you're in college and not really have to worry about it.
Oh, because that's the goal. That's just a great system that gets you to that goal. All right. So unsurprisingly, I fit into that 75% that also has that as a resolution or a goal. I would like to lose 25 pounds. And the reason kind of goes back to the same. It's not about what the internet says my number should be.
Which is crazy, by the way, right? We were talking about that before, and that's kind of nutso if you ever look those up.
Yeah. So I am between like 6'2" and 6'3". I currently weigh about 245. But if I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to be in that 220 range, which is, way higher. I'm still going to be overweight by BMI standards. But based on the best shape I've ever been in during a time where, pre-kids and pre-office jobs, when I didn't have many other commitments and, was single and stuff, so I could spend a lot of time in the gym. That's the weight I weighed. So based on my personal experience, I feel like that's a really good one. Now it wants me to be like 180.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to be 180. I don't
Yeah.
know the last time I was 180. Maybe in sixth grade I was 180. But and everyone is a little bit differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, everyone knows their own body too, right? I mean, everyone's body is different, and everyone kind of has a different weight where their bodies, that's like its spot where you're kind of comfortable. That's where you're kind of meant to be, and you're gonna have to work harder, to get below that. But it's as long as you know where your comfort level is and where you kind of want to be health wise and stuff like that. I think once you kind of get in that range, you're gonna know, right? You can sense that.
I agree. Because again, if you're doing it to feel good, like when you feel great, you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
I think that's so true for so many things too.
Yeah.
Like, what's the right amount of this? Or like, what should I be doing? Do you feel good about it? If you don't feel good about it, it's probably not what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So think about that.
It's a good call. All right, man. So next thing is, how do we hit those goals? How do we make that happen, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about systems and the idea behind systems and how those can help people?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Especially one that supports kind of the weight loss thing also. Because a lot of times that includes something like, I'm going to run this many miles per week, or this many times per day I'm going to or per week I'm going to go hit the gym and do this. And a lot of times we build up these kind of big barriers.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something like, oh, I'm going to do 50 push-ups today. Well, the problem is these things pop up on your list, and then next thing you know, you're standing here, you're looking at your list, and you're like, 50 push-ups. Man, like I'm wearing this polo shirt, and I'm gonna get all sweaty, and then I'm gonna have to take a shower and all this stuff. And you build up in your mind all these excuses why you can't do it because it says 50.
Yeah.
But if your list just said do push-ups, and you can, then the barrier is like, well, if I just do one push-up, like I technically win, right? That's good.
Yeah.
But once you do one, you've broken the ice.
Yeah. You're like, why not? I'm already on the floor.
Yeah, then you could do 50. But the point is you've won. And let's say you're really not going to do 50. Like, because you really don't want to get sweaty, or you really don't whatever. Like,
yeah.
Or something hurts. You slept on your arm wrong, and like you really don't want to do 50. Okay, cool. Well, fortunately, your checklist item doesn't say 50. It just says 2 push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So I just go do what I can, and it's a lot better than nothing.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know how many gym workouts I've skipped. I don't know how many of you've ever skipped, but where you don't feel like it's worth going to the gym because you're not going to go for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not going to get a full workout, I don't feel like doing my whole workout. I'm not going to spend an hour and a half in the gym.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to go. It's like, well, if I went for 5 minutes of working out, that's better than 0 working out.
Yeah. And that's definitely true. Like when in the past, I've had an office job and a gym membership, and I would go like over lunch or something like that. And if you ever have meetings that kind of bump up against that and make it so that you can't leave until later, and then you have to be back again early by a certain point in time or whatever, and you start thinking about like, man, it's going to take me time to get to the locker room, get changed, get out. Well, by the time I'm getting out on the floor, I'm going to have to be leaving to go shower in like 15 minutes. So it's really easy to talk yourself into, it's, I'm just not even going to go today. It's not worth the time that it's going to take to like drive there and get changed and showered and all that stuff.
Yeah, these are things I just never learned during those like high school years where you didn't have, well, at least I didn't have a lot of like time constraints or commitments.
Yeah.
So for me going to the gym, like there wasn't anything up against it, right? Like you could stay late. It didn't matter. What were you going to miss? A little bit of sleep? Ooh, big deal. Those years, it didn't matter. But now it does. So now it's that you're going to the gym during lunch, then you have that meeting that's creeping up on it, and you have all these things, and that's when you start saying like, well, if I only have 30 minutes of actual working out, is it worth doing?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. It's always worth doing something than nothing.
Yeah.
So the way it's been described to me is these systems versus goals, right? Like so that systems are for winners and goals are for losers, and it's this. I'm still wrapping my head around those two definitions. I don't think they're the best way to define it necessarily, because your system has to accomplish something, right? Like the whole point of any system, system being, something you put in and it just kind of keeps going and going. It's a system, but it has a purpose. It has to have a purpose. So it has to have a goal.
If it's supposed to move something from point A to point B, you kind of have to know what point B is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I think they're really trying to get at is saying that, don't do I'm going to do 50 push-ups today, because that's not going to
Mm-hmm.
work. That's a goal. That's not a system, is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
The system is, how are you going to, so I want to lose 25 pounds by the end of the year. How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to create a system. What's that system look like? Well, it's going to look like I'm going to do push-ups every day. How many? Just going to do them.
Yeah.
Some days I'll do more, some days I'll do less, but I'm going to do them. I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to exercise every day, things like that. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. Ooh, fun fact. Apparently, within the first 10 days of the new year, 90% of people have abandoned their goals.
Wow.
Yeah, so by the time we've been recording, this is January 12th, by the time we're recording this, by the time you guys are listening to this, 90% of you have already abandoned your goal.
Oh, man, get back on it. Don't do it. I mean, unless you decide
Well,
you don't want that goal anymore, and you're like, that was a dumb goal.
Well, that's why I think now is a really good time to talk about it, though, because earlier, if we did this like before the new year, people would be like, oh, no, I already have plenty of goals and things are going to be great.
Yeah, I'm fired up.
And they're busy with them. They don't want to hear this. But now that they've dropped their goals, they're like, oh, man, I've already dropped my goals. We're here.
Yeah.
Pick you back up again.
That's right. You can do it.
Set a goal, create a system to do it.
Yeah. No, one of the other things you've talked about with me too before is this really cool idea of strategically removing and introducing friction into things to kind of make it like easier to do certain things and harder to do other things, and the impact that will have on, a goal or on an outcome or something like that you want to do more of or do less of. Now, is that something that fits into this kind of overarching idea of systems, or is that something totally different?
It absolutely fits into it.
Okay.
I think from a systems point of view, you need to remove the things that are going to clutter up the system. Look at the things like the failure points of the system. And those are failure points for sure. So things that are going to make it so it's going to be hard for me to achieve these tasks, these next items in my system, you want to remove those. And you want to add things that are going to make it easier. So we'll start with easier. Things that make it easier, let's say your goal is to go to the gym. Just go to the gym. Even if you just step foot in there and you do a couple curls, in the mirror, just look good, then you leave. Okay, you win. That's cool. But how do you make yourself do that? Because one of the biggest struggles is, I got to go put on my clothes and this and that. It's a big, big thing. Well, what happens if you put, where are you going to walk to, right? So you have to walk out of the bedroom at some point, right? And then maybe the place that you end up getting distracted and not wanting to leave is your office. Well, you have to leave your office at some point. What happens if you put your gym bag in the doorway of your office? So for you to come and go from your office, you have to intentionally step over the gym bag, knowing that what you're supposed to be doing is going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are you going to feel? You're not going to feel very good for very long if I've already stepped over that bag 5 times today. I should probably, it's been asking me all day, I should probably go.
Yeah.
Because this is just, it's getting to me. This is embarrassing.
Who is the jerk who left? Oh, that was me. That was me that left the bag. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could say, well, I'm just going to move it. But if that's the case, you really didn't care about your goal that much, right? Because what are you going to do? You're going to put the effort to move it out of your way?
Yeah.
So things like that kind of help you. And then other things are like junk food. You can eat anything you want as long as all you have around you is good stuff, right? So if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to cut down junk food, well, don't go to the store and buy a 24-pack of cupcakes and then rely on self-control. Not gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. So just don't buy them, because right now, cupcake sounds fantastic. But you know what? I don't have any, and I don't really want to go to the store because I'm lazy.
Yeah. Now, even if, let's say you're in a household where you're the only person who's trying to watch what you eat. Maybe your spouse isn't interested in doing this, or your high school kids aren't into it too. There's things you can do too, like make it harder for you to get to it, right? Put it at the back of the fridge, put it up higher in the cabinets or something like that. So it's still there. Other people can get to it if they want, but you're not as tempted by it.
That's a really good point. Something I saw that was a pretty cool invention was they had some sort of a timed security lock capsule. So they were using it for all different things. That basically, it butts right up against this other thread where willpower is like a finite resource. It's renewable, fortunately. You wake up with more willpower than you went to bed with. But you run out of it really, really quick. And that's why you'll break down, just kind of do these things. So it's like, oh, I don't want to check my phone for an hour. Well, just put it in a desk. Well, most
Yeah.
people can't do that, including really, really, really successful people you've heard of, can't do that themselves. So they'll hand it to someone else and say, lock this up in
Mm-hmm.
your desk. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do my stuff. So they
Mm-hmm.
can't get to it. We don't all have that luxury of having someone else to do that with. So they had one of those, looking around here to see if I had one. I don't know why I would, but like those clear bins that you have in like the kitchen, um, like a jar, like a plastic something or other, like hold cereal when it's out of the box type stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like Rubbermaid container.
Yeah.
Well, they have one that has a time lock on it. So you put stuff in it, you set the time, you lock it, and you can't open it again until a
That's kind of
timer
cool.
is out.
Yeah.
So, when you say hour quiet time,
Yeah.
it's serious. Like you'd have to break this thing. There's no like just kidding button. So what I was gonna say is, if other people around you aren't, they're like, here, I just bought this big thing of donuts. I just don't you eat them, Gordon.
Put them in the locker.
Right?
Yeah.
You could have it. You could have them hide them from you. You could have them put them in some sort of. I'm sure you could wire up some sort of like little container with like a little lock on it and be like, listen, guys, just don't tell me where it is, or what the combination is.
Yeah.
Or other things you can do that help you set like help you be accountable, because it really comes down to being accountable.
Yeah.
And to ourselves isn't always a great way. A lot of people like to do the public accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I guess I'm not a big sharer.
Yeah.
On like social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, me neither. It's personal preference, so I can see a lot of people, having good experiences with that. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm not one of the people that likes to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm more private than that.
Yeah.
But to each their own. And if that works, do it, because accountability comes down to it.
Yeah.
Something people like to do is add steaks to it. Not like those, delicious beef steaks, but like steaks. Can you tell I'm hungry? But adding steaks, like if I achieve this, I get goal, right? There's the carrot, but then you also need the stick. I always often wonder why the carrot's the most enticing thing they could come up with.
Right? Yeah. Why?
Either
must be something with horses. I don't know.
You get this carrot, or you get whacked with a stick. Which would you like? Oh no, that stick is looking okay. That carrot doesn't look wonderful.
Yeah, that's a good point. But one of the other things that's super handy too, we just had a couple podcasts where we talked about apps, and there's a lot of phone apps that will help you remain accountable for stuff too. And they'll even facilitate things like sharing and stuff like that. So if you do, if that sounds interesting to you, if you do have a group of friends who are wanting to get together and be accountable to one another, there's apps that will help you do that, without you having to post something on your Facebook that goes to everybody, which maybe you don't want to do. You could just have it go to a group of people using an app or something like that.
Absolutely. Especially if you have other people that have like a similar goal. They're trying to do that. Maybe that doesn't even have to be a similar goal. It could be the same goal. If it's a similar goal, it's even better, because you can talk about it and the struggles with it. But even if other people are just trying to achieve something, you can still, just be there, hold each other accountable. Like, oh man, like this is hard. Like, yeah, I know my goal is hard too, but like it's really important we stick with it type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Competition.
Or like, dude, there's like donuts sitting on my counter and I really want to eat them. Tell me I shouldn't eat them. That kind of stuff. Like, don't do it, right? Man. You've been doing good all week. Keep it up.
Exactly. Yeah, it's helpful. Otherwise, you're just stuck with the self-talk.
Yeah.
The other thing is competition. Competition can help. So, like 4 of us in the family have these Fitbits.
Yeah.
So it's Allie and my mom and my sister, because my sister got one for Christmas.
Nice.
So like we're in these like step competitions and stuff, and it's just kind of funny, because it really will make you do more walking. Like I've had this for a long time, and for the longest time I stopped wearing it, because I was like, whatever, I'm only accountable for myself. But now beating all of them is my motivation. So the other day, we've got kind of a long hallway in our apartment over here.
We're just pacing.
I paced for 2.5 hours.
That's awesome. And Allie's like, stop it.
Actually, what's funny is she saw me doing it too, so she was doing it.
And she takes like shorter steps than you, so she ended up getting more gains. Is that how that worked?
No, I think I stuck with it longer, so I still
Oh,
won.
nice.
I did 17,000 steps that day. It was pretty nuts.
And you need a new carpet.
It's like this like vinyl thing. Otherwise, we would need new carpet. Yes, I was thinking about
That's
that. I'm
funny. I like that.
yeah. And what's really funny is the kids like it too. They don't
Yeah.
have Fitbits, but they just like they see you walking, and
Yeah.
kids have endless energy. So they're walking, they're running, they think it's great, they think it's hilarious. You're just walking back and forth, walking down around the table, walking back,
Yeah.
and probably think, how do you do that for just 2.5 hours? Don't you have stuff to do? Well, actually, I made it my reading time.
Nice.
So I pulled up a Kindle book on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm not walking around outside where someone's going to run me over.
Right.
So since I'm in the living room, in like entryway and kitchen, I really just have to be aware of where the kids are.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really an issue. So just phone, gotta still have my peripheral and everything, but I'm reading and just did that and knocked out some chapters.
I like it. That's a good system.
And I felt that, what's funny about it? I felt better than when I sit and read. Because when I sit and read, I tend to get anxious.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be like, I've been sitting for a while type stuff. And they also say that when you're walking, you get better blood flow to the brain and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of combine the two. So now I feel like I'm super reading because I'm reading, but I'm also at my like highest oxygen concentrations of the brain.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, I've heard that same thing about like people who stand while they work, like standing desks and stuff like that, are really supposed to help promote, more blood flow and on oxygen in the system while you're working, which is a good thing. It helps you stay alert and obviously helps you probably think better.
Very possible.
Yeah. You're doing a standing desk now, right? And you've been doing it for a while.
Sure am.
Have you really noticed a big difference?
Yes, I have. I've been doing this since June, so I'm on 5 to 6 months of standing desk, and I never dropped the desk. A lot of people said, "Oh, you always you'll drop the desk, at least sometime." Nope, never. I don't even have a chair, so I can't drop the desk. But versus standing here, versus trying to work like at the kitchen table or something like that, I really prefer the standing desk. It moves me around more.
Well,
I feel like when I'm sitting, it's really kind of you get comfortable sitting. It's like, oh, really? I have to stand up? Like, I'd get some more water, which is another good kind of goal. Like, you drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Like, not only is it in the kitchen, but I have to stand up to get
I have to walk there. Ugh. Right? Good thing I have kids. Come get Dad some more water.
So bad. Little enablers.
So, and you even said that you were not only standing, but you were going to start introducing like a balance board and a hula hoop, right? Or am I getting confused?
I did start the balance board. I did throw a balance board on there. And I was doing so for those of you who are watching the video, I'm listening to audio.
Yeah.
I'm holding a balance board.
Yeah.
And I'm demonstrating the direction I was balancing to begin with, which was the way you normally see it.
It looks like a skateboard without wheels, for the unfamiliar.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
It is basically a big skateboard, wider, longer skateboard without wheels.
Yeah. And
without the little like upward lips on the sides.
Yeah. You can't do any ollies.
Actually, what's funny is there's a lot of videos of people doing ollies on this.
No way. How do they do it?
And there's like little kids doing it too, like all sorts of crazy things. I saw a video of a kid doing a backflip on one of these. He did a backflip
and landed on it.
Landed, yeah. He was on it, did a backflip, and landed back on it.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
It does. And he wasn't wearing a helmet or anything either, but it was really impressive.
Wow. Did he have all the videos before that of him trying to get it right?
Like all the casts and Dr. Bills? No.
Like all the fails before the one that he managed to land?
No, he did not. For some reason, they didn't publish it.
That would have been a good compilation.
But yeah, so end to end is how I was doing originally. But then I switched it. There's these little like safety things, which are helpful to an extent. Small disclaimer: don't drink wine on your balance board. Things won't. So I moved it this way. So
yeah. So narrower stance.
more like surf
Yeah.
style, right?
Oh, so you
And
kept your feet front and back then.
I did.
Okay.
I did, but I changed the roller position to, you know, that way,
Yeah.
so it'd roll toe to, I'll call it toe to heel.
Sure.
Instead of like left to right,
Yeah.
side by side, same stance,
Yeah.
I was doing toe front and back.
Do you like that better?
I find it more challenging, so I do like that part a little bit better.
Mhm.
I figured that'd be a nice part to work on. Um, but yeah, I was doing that while drinking some wine, and had a pretty gnarly wipeout on the floor here. So yeah, the carpet's pretty thin, so you really find out how much lack of padding you really
Yeah.
have in
Yeah.
the room
Some nice
when you
rug
land on that.
rash.
Yeah, it just like flipped out from under me. I have no idea, no one could have seen that coming. I mean, I was drinking wine, hanging out on the balance board. Next thing you know, it flew out from under me, and I was on the floor. Landed like I landed like on my tricep, and like bruised it. That was weird. And then my hip and even my ribs were sore.
Dude.
I think it's just a sign of getting older.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything else contributed.
Was it good wine
Uh,
though?
it was. It was.
Nice.
I didn't spill any, I don't think, because I think I just finished it.
What? Oh, good,
Um,
good. I was gonna say that'd be
which,
impressive.
oh yeah, had I,
That kid has to master doing a backflip without spilling wine on a balance board now. That's his next challenge.
I'm gonna put that in the comments. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like,
Come on, man. Anyone can do that.
yeah, like, hey kid, try doing that without spilling your wine. Okay. I would do that backflip, but I'd spill my wine. So
There you
off
go.
the table.
That's right.
Why would anybody want to do that? You'd spill your wine.
Yeah, wine first. Come on.
It's hilarious.
What are you doing?
So yeah, I was adding that again, just something to kind of part of the system, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to stand more and want to get more steps. Well, how can you make that easier? We'll get rid of the chair. Then you're
Yeah.
going to stand longer, and as long as you're already standing, it's so much easier. I do find myself just doing like walking around more, just like a little lap around here, or something like that, just to kind of break things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, that's one of the things you want to do. Get more steps, walk a little bit more, that type of stuff. Be a little healthier. Remove the friction of doing that, which is like a comfortable chair.
I like it.
Yeah.
Any other systems you have in place for your goal?
The
Fitbit one is good, right? You've got the team and the competition going on, and kind of the accountability too. That kind of all fits into that same category. It seems like, right?
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Trying to do the not buying food that we shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
So when we do buy junk food,
yeah,
like ice cream, that's a popular one around here. There are little containers at the grocery store, like single serving size type things, which is nice because it's like, okay, I get one of those, the kids get one of those, Allie gets one of those, and that's it. But when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And you are going to finish it. That's the thing. Like it's small enough, just finish it. But that way you don't be like, oh, for just a little bit more, look how much more ice cream you get. Forget it. It's not about being a value buyer here. It's about not overindulging. And when you buy the big thing of ice cream, you're going to eat a big thing of ice cream. If not right now, you're going to eat it tomorrow.
Yeah.
When it's gone, you're going to be like, well, where's my ice cream? Well, you ate it, and then you're going to want to get more. So just don't do it.
They should. I think they should have the option of buying Girl Scout cookies with less cookies in a box.
They came by for Girl Scout cookies, and I just gave them money.
See, the other thing I found out about, because Kara's actually selling them this year, you can actually buy cookies and have them donated to the military, which I didn't even know you could do.
That's nice, and they should tell you that.
They should tell you that, right?
They didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I never knew. No one's ever told me that before. We've bought Girl Scout cookies, I don't know, for years. Ever since I had a place where the Girl Scouts would come to the door. And I never even knew that was a thing.
I had no idea, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
That's cool.
They should definitely say more about that. Because I feel bad, and I love what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like they're building good skills doing that.
Yeah.
Dealing with rejection and just like sales in general. That's awesome. Yeah. We should all do that.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel as like skeezy as those magazine drives that the schools always have for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. They force a lot of books too. There's like you remember those in school? They always used to have those like they bring all those different books in, like the rotating book sale thing.
Yeah.
and then like bring all the kids down, like pick all the books they want to tell their parents.
Yeah, 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 like the book fairs and stuff. And I'm talking about like
Yes.
the magazine. And maybe your schools never did them, but when I was in elementary school, I remember they did these magazine drives where we were supposed to sell like not like educational magazines, but like I don't know, GQ and Glamour type magazines to whoever wants to buy magazines. And they come in and they do this huge presentation about like, oh, if you sell this many, you get like this many credits, and these are the prizes and the things you can get. And they got like tables full of all this cool stuff that kids are like, oh man, that's awesome, right? Uh, and then you go like door to door and you're supposed to sell these magazines, which I don't know, it's kind of nuts.
Damn.
Yeah.
We did not sell magazines. I do remember, was it around the holidays? Oh yeah, it was definitely around the holidays. It was basically just like a Sky Mall catalog they sent kids around with.
Oh yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, and then they're like, you go to door and you try to like, you're like, hey, would you like wrapping paper or like a a remote control car
Or a
or like,
wall-sized crossword puzzle.
yeah, like now I look at it, it's like, wait a minute, how do parents not have an issue with just sending their kids around with a Sky Mall magazine door to door?
Yeah.
It just
Here you
seems
go,
kind of
Johnny. Have at it.
strange.
Times were different. I mean, I think
Times
about
were-
that too, man. Like we used to play everywhere in our neighborhood. We just ride our bikes and go all over the place. No one ever thought anything of it. Totally different now. It's kind of nuts.
That it is. They say, it's kind of a side note, but they say things are just as dangerous now as they ever were.
Yeah.
It hasn't actually changed, but the speed of information is much different. So anytime something bad happens in the world,
Everyone
we
knows
hear
about
about it immediately.
Yeah.
They've also like highly commercialized bad news.
Yeah.
So we like blow it out of,
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, makes it, that's interesting. I wonder what kind of impact that's having, as we raise kids and our kids raise kids. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't see that getting any better.
Let's consider. I mean, it's totally separate from. I guess it's not totally separate from systems goals. If you have a goal of being happier in 2017, then you might want to consider what you consume because these things take a lot of toll on you mentally.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, to answer your question, Gordon, people are getting more depressed. Like there is more depression now than there has in the past. There is more pharmaceutical use for like depression type things than ever before. Are we somehow, just more genetically geared towards that? No, I don't think so. I think it's really the matter of what we're consuming. We're bombarded with bad news all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time we're bombarded by bad news, I think a lot of people should try to step away from Facebook and stuff like that this year.
Yeah,
because Facebook has really high correlation to depression and stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the same time that you're hearing these bad things happening over here, or maybe like you're having a tough time, at the same time, not only is it on Facebook, but at the same time it's on Facebook, you also have, photographs and pictures and proof of how wonderful everyone else's life is.
Right. Well,
So
that's
you're
the
like,
goal, right?
oh,
Yeah.
what's John from high school doing? Oh, apparently he's living the dream.
Oh, great. They're going
Jeez.
to Las Vegas again. How nice. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I actually read an article the other day that was saying that just an hour a day has been proven to make teens more depressed on social media than if they didn't have that hour a day on social media.
There you go.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. Like, like bad news, bad news, bad news, followed by look how much more successful everyone else is than you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, a lot of times people do want to, of course you want your family and friends and other people to do well, right? You want people to do well because you're a good person. You want people to do well. But you don't want to feel like everyone else is out living a perfect life while you're having a struggle. Like you want realism. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
We should make a new, like, honest and open social media, man.
We should.
Where it encourages you to post, like, the downers every now and then.
They don't show the backstory. It's just kind of like the myth of the overnight, startup sensation type thing, right? Like, oh yeah, look, these, your friends or whoever, it's probably not someone you've known for a long, like, on a day-to-day basis, otherwise you'd know, but like, you look at these things like, oh yeah, so and so's going on another vacation or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but what you didn't see is they ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the last year. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing that's kind of crazy too is it's if you have a lot of friends, which I think a lot of people have a lot of relationships on social media, it can start to look like everyone's going on vacations because maybe people don't go on vacation. Like every 10 years, they do a vacation, right? But then when they do, of course, they're going to share it all over Facebook because they haven't done it in
Yeah.
forever, right? But all you see is, oh, now these people are doing it. Now these people are doing it. Now these people are doing it. You don't know how long and far it is between for these people to actually go on vacation and stuff like that. But
Yeah. You have 1,000 friends.
yeah,
And, you know, there's 12 months in a year. Like,
yeah,
if they go on a vacation once a year, that's an if,
yeah,
right? You're going to see a lot of vacations.
yeah,
A lot. Um, but yeah, yeah. So it is always going to feel like someone's going on vacation. But I think it's also very important. People don't like the people not just look at the, which is hard. Like that's why you should kind of just avoid
yeah,
your exposure to it. But when you see these things, you gotta think like, okay, but what did they sacrifice to get there? You know,
yeah,
to take this vacation.
yeah,
What else did they do?
yeah, definitely. All right, next goal, man. Number 2 for me. And this one kind of came out of something that Richie actually shared with us, Kevs and I, on Slack channel. And it was a video that Gary V did, Gary Vaynerchuk. You should check it out if you haven't yet. It's I don't even know what you would look up to find it, but he's basically doing this video where he's encouraging people to set a goal for themselves to make, what is it, $20,170 this year. But the whole idea is you do this by starting by selling little things around your house that you're not interested in. And you kind of grow that up over the course of the year to maybe like hitting up yard sales and stuff like that. And finding things that have higher value on eBay and maybe Etsy Vintage and other sites and stuff like that. And selling these things online is kind of like a side hustle with the goal of making $20,170 through the course of the year. Why 20,170? Because that's 2017, and 2000 would have been too small of a number, so he added a 0 at the end. But anyway, that's not exactly my goal. I'm not really interested in the money end of things as much as just the idea of purging and going through the stuff that I have here in my house that I don't really use a whole lot. It's just taking up space. It's kind of a drain every now and then, when it's just clutter. It turns into stuff that's just there. It's just in the way. It's something that has to have a spot. It has to go somewhere. It's just a pain, right? And so watching the video got me thinking about all that stuff and how much it would be nice to either sell or donate or whatever. Just get rid of the stuff that I'm not really using that much anymore. So my number 2 goal is to purge a lot of stuff that I just have sitting around that I haven't really messed with that, I have because I thought I might need one day or whatever. Just, man, if I haven't messed with it, let's just get rid of it.
I like it. That'll feel a lot better. We did a lot of purging when we moved, as you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
like you guys got down to like what fit in your van, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and some boxes. We shipped some boxes.
Yeah.
But then it was just what fit in the minivan.
Yeah.
Minivan with all the seats up because there were 2 kids in the back. So this wasn't like put down all the seats, what fits in the van.
And you guys had a house before, so this is like not like an insignificant amount of stuff that you guys had to rifle through. Like you got rid of furniture and all kinds of things that you either donated to family members or you sold and people came and picked up stuff. And
yep,
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, Goodwill was the recipient of a lot.
Yeah,
it was like a U-Haul truck, and so we packed a pretty good sized U-Haul truck. Family took a good amount of stuff, and then the rest of it we pulled that over to Goodwill, and they got a lot of stuff. And that was after we took many like full size minivan loads to Goodwill.
Yeah.
For like months ahead of the move.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. But you know what? We never missed that stuff.
Yeah.
It was stuff you see all the time. You're like, oh, I'm going to totally use that.
Yeah.
When it's gone though, you don't miss that.
Yeah.
Really good.
I've only had one experience where I've purged a bunch of stuff and I had regrets after the fact. It was when we lived in Iowa and we're moving out here to Ohio. I had a bunch of computer stuff in my basement, like old computers and all kinds of parts and little adapters and stuff like that. I just had like a whole shelf full of things. And I got rid of pretty much all of it. I was like, whatever, let's get rid of it. If I need a little adapter, I'll buy an adapter for something. But it was kind of ridiculous after we got out here how many times I was like, oh man, I just need like a power cable. I need one power cable. And I used to have like a shoebox full of like 15 of them. All I need is a power cable. Now I got to order one on Amazon to get it here. But uh, it was kind of a bummer. So I guess there's some things where I'm like, all right, maybe it's worth hanging on to this stuff, which I'm probably going to need a lot. But overall, all the other things I've gotten rid of in the past, you're right. I haven't really had any regrets about stuff. It's you don't really miss it, especially if it's stuff that you're not using a whole lot. Chances are you're not going to be needing it a lot going forward. So yeah, that's one of my things is to purge.
It's hard to get rid of things like clothes too.
Clothes, yeah, clothes I don't have as much of a problem with. It's just like they just hang around in my closet. If I make a concentrated effort to like go through and be like, let's get rid of these, I have no problem just being like, I'm not going to wear this, I'm not going to wear that, I'm not going to wear this, like just boom, gone. But it's one of those things that like you don't think about, right? It has a spot, It has a place, it's in the closet. I don't really think about like, man, I should get rid of some of my clothes here. But
our standard size closet is so empty because we got rid of so much stuff.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It's a nice feeling. It's nice to have space and not clutter.
Absolutely.
The Gary Vee thing, you should be able to find that if you look up like Gary Vee $20,170 challenge.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll find the video.
There you go.
Because he's like doing like an ongoing challenge with it. So there's a hashtag, there's all this stuff. There's the video. And if you just go to even like just Gary Vee's YouTube channel, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
Like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So if you're interested, jump on that. Let's see. My second goal would be, you can say this a couple different ways, but only focusing on the things that matter, the things that are really valuable, so that I can be more present in them. Because I find too often this kind of comes out like with a busy thing, right? Busy versus having a full schedule. I would prefer to have in other words, areas where like I think the wording needs tweaking. Because Gordon, you and I were talking about it, and busy, a full schedule could be busy, like if that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But sometimes busy just is like unorganized chaos. So if I want to have a lot going on, if I want to do a lot of stuff, I want it to be intentional.
Yeah.
So like intentionally full schedule, as opposed to what the connotation of busy in this case is, just you've got a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of chaotic, it's kind of unfocused, it's kind of unintentional noise.
Yeah.
I'm doing this just because people say you should do it. I'm on Twitter because people say you have to be on Twitter. Or I'm promoting over here on Instagram because people say I've got to promote on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's like, but are you really...
I was just going to say, or maybe it's a habit. Maybe I've just always done it. And I've never thought about like, do I really need to be spending time on this?
Exactly. And it can feel weird to not do that. But we got to ask yourself is, if I'm doing this, am I really present with the things that matter? Yep. Because you're going to have something that... So I'm reading this one book. It's called The One Thing by Gary Keller, which I didn't put the two together, but of Keller Williams Realty, like big real estate. Yeah, I'm like, Gary Keller, I've never heard of this guy. Apparently I have. So he wrote this book, and it's called The One Thing. And it's all about like just pouring your energy into this one thing, the one thing that would either make everything else on your list irrelevant or make everything else easier.
Yeah.
And the idea is just this focus, because this multitasking thing is a lie. We can't multitask. You can focus on something. So what I'm trying to do is, instead of doing a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of stuff kind of a little bit and not really be in it, I want to just focus on the things that matter and be present for them. It's much like those conversations, like consider a conversation where you're talking to somebody, maybe you're at dinner and you're hanging out, and like you're having a conversation, but you're both kind of on your phones at the same time. That's an example of multitasking. That's an example of not being present for it. So I want to do the conversation where we don't have our phones out and we're just talking. And that's the type of presence I want to have for anything I'm working on.
Yeah.
Because I'm working on something, but there's this going off, that going off, another notification. Oh, someone liked my thing on Facebook. Like, I'm not really doing that thing.
Yeah, it's everything's competing for your focus. Yeah. And it's easy. it's really easy at home, at least. It's probably in the office too, to just get sidetracked by that kind of stuff, right? And my phone goes off and I check what was that, right? And now if it's something I need to act on or feel like I need to act on, now it's basically taking me away from whatever I'm doing, and I'm actually spending time engaging with that.
Yep.
You know?
I think it's even worse in the office, because in the office, everyone expects you to reply to emails right away,
Mm,
as if that's what your job is to reply to emails.
yeah,
And it's like, well, no, I'm actually supposed to be like working on this thing. But
yeah,
someone sends you an email and they
yeah,
expect you to respond to it right away. So then the little notification pops up. You're supposed to stop what you're doing. You're supposed to go respond to the damn email, which
yeah,
probably requires you actually do work to respond to it.
yeah,
So again, close out of this thing, open up this other stuff. Next thing
yeah,
you know, 2 hours have gone by.
yeah.
And so it's
Well,
tough. Or
yeah.
you don't respond to the email, and then who like someone else pops in and is like, "Hey, did you get that email?" It might not be the person that sent the email, but someone else was copied on it, and they want to
Yeah.
come and talk to you about the email. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know,
And even
so
if it's a 15-minute, maybe it's not a 2-hour thing. Maybe it's a 15-minute thing. That context switching can still be expensive to, get back into whatever you had all straightened out in your mind before that you were working on. Kind of like you got to find your place again, right? Maybe I was keeping track of like 15 things for the one thing I was doing. Now I don't even remember where I was and what those things were. I kind of have to reorient myself. So
absolutely, because there's always hidden work. They say that whatever you think something's going to take is going to take 3 times longer, because we're that bad at estimating things.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, if you think it's going to be 15 minutes, plan on 45,
yeah.
and then
I
be
will.
lucky.
I'll say too, though. In the office when I would get interrupted by my phone and I would kind of like jump onto something on my phone, I wouldn't tend to feel as bad as I do when I end up catching myself doing it here, and I'm like, doing something with the kids, and like something happens on my phone, and then I'm like on my phone, and I'm like, wow, I feel like such a jerk now from like, my daughter's asking me a question. I'm like, hold on. When in reality, like I was probably doing something with them and like my phone is the interruption. You know what I mean? And I'm treating
Yeah,
them like they're the interruption. I just feel terrible about that. So that's a good one, man. I like that one.
it's a tough one. And
Yeah.
that's definitely one where you have to work on the systems aspect. So what I've done actually to kind of aid me in that, let's see here. I am implementing, so I'm constantly trying new things that might work for me. So for this, I've taken, those of you who are listening, I'm showing my phone. Um, I've made a rule, and I've taken a Gary V wallpaper that says hustle. And for two reasons. One, well, one of them is going to hold me accountable. But one, I want to make it more difficult to get to the apps that aren't good for me. So I'm putting those on other screens. And then second of all, I have this wallpaper with where it's hustle right across the middle, and it's going to look really stupid if I have apps sitting in the middle of it. So that
Yeah.
kind of holds me accountable for really keeping it to only apps on the top of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
which limits me from the creep that happens because all these other apps on the other screens
Yeah.
like to go and pop up and fill your screen. And then eventually you're like, oh, what one can be on the home screen?
Yeah.
A lot of brain cycles used just reorganizing your phone.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make everything else hard to get to. And then just the stuff that I really need and are good for me, like
Yeah.
meditation app, a little habit list, pocket where I keep my articles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Calendar, right? To-do list, those things on the home screen
Yeah.
because they're better for me. But I also turned off push notifications for email, Facebook, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to check that stuff, and I also hid those things like off. Like I've got to go extra clicks to get to Facebook, email, stuff like that, because I want to make it hard. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make it slightly painful for me to go check those.
Mm-hmm.
Just because what's going to be in my email waiting for me?
Right.
Anything like urgently important?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You know,
if
probably
it's
nothing
from
that.
me, it is. Yeah.
Well, you don't send me the email. You send me,
No, we don't
a
email
message
really.
somewhere else.
I don't even remember the last time I really emailed you about something. That's true.
You probably forwarded me something. Like that's really the only.
Maybe. Yeah. Probably.
That's really the only time.
I'll have to go look now. I'm curious. Uh, Speaking of email though, I don't know if you still use it, but I use Inbox by Google, right? And one of the really cool things about Inbox is that it kind of suppresses some messages from you. So like when I get stuff from, like Facebook or promotional messages from Lord knows who I'm subscribed to for whatever, it doesn't give me a push notification. It doesn't alert me that I have a message about that. Now, if I see the app, it has the little badge number, right, that shows me I have a message, but
Yep.
it's not interrupting me with those things. And when I first started using Inbox, it drove me crazy. My good friend Jason told me about it as an app, and I was checking it out. And I'm like, this is kind of nuts. It's not telling me when I'm getting emails. Like, that's really frustrating. Like, yes, I know I don't have to act on this email right now, but like, at least like to know I have an email that I can look at later. You know what I mean? But after I've been using it for a while, it's kind of nice that it buries that stuff from you, and it's like it
Yeah.
helps you not be distracted. Now, if you're getting an email from a friend or whatever, it tends to like prioritize those things, and those things you'll still get notifications for and stuff like that. Um, but overall, it's been really good at like hiding the things that you really don't need to be interrupting you throughout the day, so that when you choose when you want to engage with your email, right? And I can say, okay,
Yeah.
let me go in here and look at this. So
And it's another one of those you kind of want to be present for it also.
yeah,
I found way too often I'll check one of these things.
yeah,
Maybe in our group, there'll be a message in our group and or like a thread.
yeah,
And I'll check it. And now I'm thinking about it, but it's also I'm kind of checking on the go,
yeah,
because it's on the phone. That's
yeah,
the whole point. Like it's on the phone, so that's why I'm trying to suppress them there, so I can handle it when I'm ready to. Because I'll get this email, I'll get this message, or whatever. Now I know about it, and I really want to respond to it.
yeah.
Well, now I'm stuck with, okay, what do I do? Like I just stop everything else I was doing. Like you might be walking to the store, you might be cooking dinner, you're doing something.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check it. Now I'm stuck in this whole big thing where I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it and I want to respond, but I don't really have the time to say what I want to say. And I don't want to give, a half answer.
Yeah.
I want to go all the way with it.
Yeah.
So then it just turns into a whole conundrum
Mm-hmm.
simply because I went and checked it when I wasn't ready to actually do the work. I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared,
Yeah.
to like actually get my hands dirty.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And that can get crazy frustrating too if you're really focusing on something or something is already challenging for you. Like you're working on something that's like you're kind of hitting wall after wall and you're just like getting frustrated with it. And then all of a sudden you're getting notifications from other things about like, oh, what about this thing? What about this thing? What about this thing? And it just starts to be like, oh, overwhelming, and you want to blow up about it. But it's like the people that are sending those messages don't intend them to be that way. They're not trying to take you away from what you're trying to do, but it's really easy to get caught in that. And, we're a small team. It's just the three of us. And that still happens every now and then to me that I'm working on something and something else comes in that's like unrelated or whatever that deserves attention, but I feel like I need to give it attention right then. And it's like, I'm already frustrated because I'm doing this other thing. And then I'm like, dude, I have to like stop myself. Like, hold on, man. Hold on. You know what I mean?
Right?
So,
Yeah, it's just like you're doing something totally unrelated. You're just like putting something together, you're doing whatever, and then the phone rings. You're just like, the phone.
exactly. Yeah, you're like, what do you want? And it's like your mom.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
Right. Mom, why you calling me right now? Don't you know I'm doing this, that? Things are going so awful. Why are you ruining everything? It's like, I was just calling to say happy birthday. I was like, well, okay, sorry. I'm not mad at you, but, this thing's not working.
It's not a good birthday. This is a bad birthday. That's how it goes.
Right?
I like it.
And so I know that a lot of shops want to respond to messages like immediately, like the moment they come in and stuff. And there's something to be said for responding to something while maybe the person is still considering a purchase right then and there.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's really, really, really important to answer as many common questions as possible so they can self-educate themselves.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You might send someone a response back to and they're not expecting it, so they're not even going to read it for a while.
Yeah.
But if you're busy, if you're the maker and the person responding to the questions, keep in mind that it's going to really chew up your day and you're going to get that same
That's right.
situation. Like, I'm going to read this and I'm hoping it's just like I can just type yes real quick because my hands have like glue on them.
Yeah.
And but like, oh no, they have a real question. Now I've got to like respond with like a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got this thing over here going on, this thing over here going on, and now I just got to write something real quick, and then you write it back, but then it wasn't good enough, and then buy it anyway, but you still left the other stuff. Next thing you know, you've missed dinner.
Yeah.
Like it's just these little things. If you think you don't have enough time in the day, there's always someone out there who's getting more done than you are. You know what I mean? What is their secret? How are they doing it?
Robots.
I think it's part of it, right? I think part of it is honestly robots is kind of part of the answer because it's things like a purpose of robots is to take a lot of distraction away.
Yeah.
To take a lot of, like, the distracting and the noise, and something else is kind of handling that.
Yeah.
I think that's uh, one of the big secrets about the executive office and having like secretaries and stuff. What's their number one job? To keep people out, you know? Um,
Not to say that secretaries are like robots.
or are they?
Yeah, it's the idea of not spending time on the things that you don't want to do but still need done. Have that handled elsewhere, whether it's another person that's doing it or a computer or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. But it's much happier and easy and more effective to, have somebody like. I'd be so much happier and more effective if like that's what I was doing. If my job was if my one thing was, to kind of like harness these conversations, do this, like help people here and this and that, and everything kind of flows in one thread. I can keep going and get into a flow, and things are happy. I think where the cognitive dissonance there, right, where the distress, like the inner turmoil comes up, is when you can't finish things because you keep getting distracted from them.
Yeah. And
it's the context switching.
Mm-hmm.
So, if your job is over here to crank out spreadsheets, like let's say you're an accountant or you're a lawyer and you're like, your job is to do these things. Like if clients are constantly calling you, asking you questions, or like, whatever else people need, are constantly getting directly, your phone's always ringing, you're never going to get anything done.
Ding.
Especially when you're like,
ding.
when you need,
ding.
That real deep thought. You don't want, to deal with that person who every time they're like the lawyer, wherever their phone's constantly ringing and they're like, they completely forgot something on your contract, and they're just like, oh, I'm sorry, someone must have called. You're like, but that was kind of important.
Yeah.
Happens, right? So if they have somebody over here that's a buffer that can collect all that stuff and be like, that's cool. I can answer that. I can answer this. Like, I'm going to write that one down and I'll ask them when, and then, at whatever time, at 3:00, they come in, they say, boom, here's your stuff. Like, this is the time that you go through these things.
Yeah.
Here you go. They're batched, but otherwise, noise is blocked.
Yeah.
There's an emergency. Don't worry about it. You don't have to have your phone, because they'll call this number. This person can decide, okay, is this something where I really need to go interrupt, or is this something to just be blocked out?
Yeah.
And you can just focus on what matters. And I think that's something that, that you and I certainly don't have, and probably most of our listeners don't have, that type of isolation. They don't have like, this is my office, here's a secretary over here, and they're going to like field all this stuff so I can focus on this thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find that that's like one of the lesser thought of aspects of like how some people are just getting a lot more stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't come up with, like, no one invented the iPhone because they were checking their Facebook messages. Like, I got this notification. Look at this cat. This is adorable, right? Oh,
yeah.
I guess I was on an iPhone trying to invent an iPhone. Oh, look at this ASCII cat. Oh my gosh, they drew it with ones and zeros. It's adorable. Oh my gosh, what if I could make a phone where the whole screen and there was actual pictures on it, and you could pinch to like expand and zoom out. iPhone invented. That's how they were checking Facebook messages.
Yeah,
it's a false story.
Man, this YouTube video is adorable. I wish I could keep it in my pocket to share with people. Yeah, I think, and get kind of giving up some of those things that still need done, but that you don't want to be spending your time on is a tough thing for a lot of Etsy sellers too, because a lot of people are it's a passion for them, that they love what they're doing, right? They want to make sure that it's a quality experience for all of their customers. They want to make sure everything is exactly how they would do it, which is one of the beautiful things about Etsy, is how much love and care goes into things versus a lot of the Chinese made stuff that you buy all over the place. But during the Etsy Up conference last year, there were a lot of sellers who came on and told a lot of really good stories about how they let go of certain parts of their shop. They had someone come in and help them start sewing stuff or producing
Hmm.
things or handling the social media or, handling a lot of the messaging and stuff like that that comes in from customers with questions and whatnot. And it was a positive thing. I don't think a single person said, man, that went really poorly. Like, I really wish I hadn't done that. You know what I mean? So
I do.
I was just gonna say it's one of those things, it's kind of apprehensive, I think, for a lot of people to
Oh
actually
yeah.
go through and do it because it's kind of like, well, are they gonna do it the same way I would? Are they really gonna care as much as I would care when they're doing? Are they gonna do it the right way, or are they just gonna take shortcuts and I'm gonna be presented as someone who I don't want to be presented as like cheapening my
Hmm.
product and my brand and everything that I've worked so hard to build up, right? But
Yes.
there were a lot of fantastic stories about how that worked out well for people.
I think you have to find people that may not start out passionate about your brand, but that have passion for doing things right
Yeah,
and doing things like just a complete job. And I think that you can really find that by seeing the aspects of their own life and how they handle things.
yeah.
Do they get a sense of completion and satisfaction from just like a job well done?
Yeah.
Because that still exists, surprising or not. There are still people out there that just really get satisfaction from a job well done, which is important. What were we talking about? I was going to say something. Um, I've lost my train of thought, Gordon.
I don't know what you were gonna say. I was gonna say though that yeah, kind of along those same lines. It's been shown that recognition, uh, giving people recognition for something is oftentimes a powerful and longer term motivator than just money by itself. So you're working an office job, you get a raise, right? That feels good. That's fantastic, right? But a month or two after you've gotten your raise, it's like it's kind of worn off. You're not feeling as good about
You're
where
back
you
to
are.
baseline.
Yeah, exactly. You've grown to
Yep.
the new income level that you were afforded, and you don't feel as appreciated anymore. But with recognition and stuff like that, that'll carry you a lot longer than monetary things. And so it's important, if you're hiring someone, to make sure you are giving them that recognition, right? Like, let them know that they're doing a good job with things. People in general are really like that. I know I thrive on recognition for things, so like I could work like as hard as I wanted, but if no one's ever telling me that I actually did a good job with something, I'm going to be super depressed. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
you need to make sure you're picking the right people that you're going to be working with and treating them the right way. I don't think you can just like, throw money at them and expect that they're going to be happy with that. Obviously that I'm sure they're going to appreciate that, but it's going to carry them a lot further to know that they're actually appreciated and, that they're respected with what they're doing for you.
And that's actually the harder thing to give, I think, for a lot of people anyway, to
Mm-hmm.
like to realize, because there are plenty of companies out there with money,
Yeah.
right? Big companies, like you want to be a number and get a raise every year and stuff like that. There are plenty of big companies who would love that, but
Yeah.
they're not going to give you the recognition because they don't know who you are, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Yeah, like if you're not someone that's good at giving recognition, like make sure you don't find someone that like Gordon here that thrives on it because that's probably not going to go well. Um, but in general, that's probably a good thing to work on for everybody. Like just appreciate people in general because I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't like being appreciated.
Yeah.
And recognition doesn't have to be employee of the month either. Like it's a
No, it
good
does. Yeah,
example,
no, a good
but
example, man. It doesn't have to be something that's like super structured, right? It could just be hey, like I really appreciate what you're doing here for me. You've helped out
yeah,
immensely. Just a one-off thing randomly. It doesn't even have to be spurred by anything. It does need to feel genuine though, right? I
yes.
suppose if you're not great at giving recognition, it might come off as being disingenuous or something like that, and then probably not going to have as much impact as you would hope it to, but just be honest and open about it, I would say.
I think a lot of people can tell when like maybe it's like the difference between this is new and awkward for you to give recognition versus like you're just saying it because you feel like you have to say it.
Yeah.
So if you come off as genuine, even though you might it might come off a little awkward. I'm just saying, like if you're one of these
Yeah.
people where it does come off as awkward or something like that, but it's genuine,
Yeah.
I think people can tell that that was genuine recognition,
Yeah.
and they forgive the rest
You,
of
and
it
a
because
sneaky
it's
thing.
the thought that counts.
It's the thought that counts for sure. And a sneaky thing you can do if you want to give recognition, but you're worried about your actual, delivery of it, write them a card, write them a quick little note and just, set it on their desk or mail it to them or however, that's kind of nice. It doesn't have to be something super long. It can just be a sentence or two. And that they'll interpret, in a positive
Yes.
way, I would think. Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say.
All right.
So back to the kind of like being everywhere and doing all this different stuff, and having someone else help you so you can kind of do some of those other things, or
Yeah.
like answering the conversations as they come in, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because we all want to make sure that everyone's experience is perfect and wonderful and, immediate, right? Answer the phone on the first ring, kind of stuff. But the problem is, what you really have to consider is, as you get stretched too thin, as you start to answer the phone on the first ring, this and that, like, what are you ignoring?
Mm-hmm.
Because you might have an order you're working on right in front of you right here,
Mm-hmm.
and then you pick up the phone, you do this other thing, you get distracted, then you forget to put something in the order, or you don't do it the
Yeah.
same as you did before,
Yeah.
or you don't, you sound rushed on the phone, and then the person on the other end is like, well, I didn't seem like they cared. You do care. You care immensely,
Yeah.
but you were
But
busy
your glue's
so
drying and you're freaking out.
you were so busy caring about 10 different things that you came off as, oh, they didn't care. They did. They answered on the first ring and dropped everything else for you, but you couldn't tell because they were stretched so thin.
Mm-hmm.
So, just because someone else is doing a lot on Twitter, Instagram, all this social media stuff, it doesn't mean you have to do all of that.
Yeah.
Like, be 100% of yourself in one place rather than 10% of yourself in 10 places.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, your customer, when you do show up to these different places, it's going to feel like you're only partly there. And that's not a good experience for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So to give your customer the full experience, I guess what I'm really trying to say is do less. Do less, but be more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that. Do less, but be more for them, for the person you're in front of.
DLBM.
Yeah. Hashtag DLBM.
I like it. All
Okay,
right.
cool.
All right. Goal number 3. Should we move on to goal number 3?
We probably
I think DLBM was a good closing thought for that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Goal number 3. For me, this was a crazy one because there's like a huge long story that goes with it, and I don't want to share like the entirety of the story here. But before on the podcast we've talked, I've made a mobile game before with one of my really good friends, Alex. We built one together. And so kind of along the same lines, about 40 years ago, my dad started developing this idea that he had for a game, and he was actually working with a publisher, Atari, at the time. You might have heard of them. And unfortunately, before it kind of got very to the end of the cycle where they were actually going to release it and put it in stores, the whole program got scrapped. Like all of the developers working on all the separate things, the whole program that Atari had out there got scrapped for whatever reason. So it never saw the light of day, other than the people that kind of at Atari and their relatives and stuff like that being able to play with it, and the judges and the competitions and stuff. Nobody ever saw this thing. So he's always kind of thought this would be a cool thing to build. And when mobile phones became a thing, he was like, oh man, this would be like the perfect mobile game, because it's kind of a little fun thing you can do, like, and not have to devote a bunch of time to. You don't have to sit down and do this for like hours on end to get something from it. So one of the things that I'd really like to do this year, and again, I don't want to overshare here, but my dad's health isn't the best. It's been declining. So one of the things I really want to focus on this year is building out this game, and engaging him with it, and kind of building this thing out as he's seen his vision before, but still modernizing it and making sure it's still relevant in today's culture and stuff like that. And so that's my third goal, is to complete and publish the game by the end of the year.
That's awesome. That's a good goal.
Thanks.
Let me ask you, do you have any systems in place to make sure you achieve that?
I was thinking about it too as we started the podcast. I have systems in place for my first goal for weight loss, which I think are working out pretty well for me. I'll have to kind of keep on myself about that, because sometimes I kind of fall off the habit loop with a lot of things. So I need to make sure that doesn't happen with those. But for my other 2 goals, I really don't have a whole lot of stuff in place yet to make sure that those things actually happen. So that's something I need to work on, right? Is sitting down and thinking about, okay, what are some really good systems I can use here to make sure I actually do go through and purge some stuff from my house that I don't need anymore, and make sure that I can get this thing built over the course of the year. When Alex and I did Block Blasters, it took us about 6 months, and it was like, we had a full-time job at the time, and so this was something we kind of just did random nights and sometimes would get together and work on stuff. And we definitely didn't work like 6 months straight on this thing, right? I mean, if I counted total hours, I don't even know what it would be, but it wasn't a full 6 months of like every single night working on this thing. So I think it's definitely achievable within a year to get this put together and done. But I also acknowledge I'm going to have to plan for this, and there's a lot of things that I learned in doing Digiball that like I wish I would have spent more time on this portion of the development cycle than where I actually did spend my time and like scrambling at the end and all that kinds of stuff and cutting out features in order to get it done sooner and stuff like. There's some good lessons there. But I do need to spend more time on figuring out what systems and stuff like that I can keep in place to make sure these things happen and I can hit these things.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Since there's different stages to it, you might want to break them down into like there's big goal and then like milestone type thing.
Yeah. I was thinking about something like that. I would have a pretty good sense of like, okay, by this point in the year, I need to be doing this, right? Like release, for example. Let's say it's all done and ready to go and everything like that. It takes 2 weeks, at least at a minimum, just for Apple to review an app before they'll put it into the store. So, I mean, that's something that like you need to account for that, right? If I want to have it in there by December 31st, I better have that milestone ahead of time that it's been submitted to the App Store. And that's, again, assuming that they're going to approve it the first go round. There's a lot of apps that get rejected over and over and over and over again. And they're not always super clear on why things get rejected. Fortunately, with Block Blasters, we got approved the first time through, and it was no big deal. But I've heard a lot of horror stories from other developers where it's like, what is your problem with this? Like, why is this being rejected? It's like, well, apparently it's this one thing in this one little XML config file that you didn't put this one specific way that we want to see it, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I think milestones is definitely a good way to go for that and kind of have like micro goals throughout the year. And at least help me know like, oh man, I've been devoting no time to this thing at all this month, right? There's no way I'm going to hit this goal. I need to either pick it up or kind of readjust some things. So I think that's a good one. Milestones would be pretty key.
Something you might want to do is put in some accountability. So you mentioned your dad in it.
Yeah.
So maybe have like set up at these milestones certain kind of commitments.
Yeah.
To like so for instance, you're gonna present something to someone you care about, right? So hey, like on this date, like big stuff, you know what I mean? Like, here we go, milestone. And that way it kind of holds you accountable because you care. Like, you don't want to let them down, right?
Yeah.
So that could be like a really powerful kind of like personal reason to do things. Because I told everyone I would. We're going to show the whole family this thing at this point. And, we're not going to push it by a month.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So just ideas.
I like it.
Yeah, there you go.
What's your number 3, man?
Yeah, that's right. My number 3. For my number 3, I'm going to go with learning to learn. So I think we all have a pretty basic understanding of learning things, and some of us might be slightly more aware of like what works for us and what doesn't. But even that, I think, is somewhat rare. I think where people pretty much leave off is like, oh, I'm a visual learner, I'm an audible learner, and some people say like, oh, I realize I'm a kinesthetic learner, or really mostly a combination. The kind of leans more towards one or the other. I find myself to be more of a kinesthetic learner. I definitely learn more by actually doing it. That's when things like really set into place.
Yeah.
But I want to go beyond that. I want to go beyond just being able to say that. And actually like just learning to learn faster, learning to learn more thoroughly, have more things stick. Because there's a lot of things I still want to do in life. And I want to make sure that I don't spend 10 years learning something when I could get proficiency, in a couple months. And I think language is a good example of that. I'm not going to go learn another language because so far I've been awful at it in the past. But again, I think that's an example of not understanding how to learn such a thing. I don't know how to learn another language. And the methods that were taught to me originally didn't work for me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And there was never anybody else to speak this language to. So if I'm going to learn Spanish, I need someone that, I need someone to talk Spanish with me. That's kind of the accountability. So if I'm going to learn Spanish, I need someone to actually interact with.
Yeah. Super side note on that, right? I don't want to get too much off on a tangent, but for anyone who is interested in learning a language, and that's one of the things that they want to do this year, If you haven't yet, check out an app called Duolingo. It's really good. And recently they just added kind of what Richie's saying. They've added a feature where you can chat with an AI person that's speaking the language that you're trying to learn. So it's like an AI chatbot thing. It's like a computer you're talking to, but you can still actually have a conversation in the language you're trying to learn with a person kind of thing, right? It's a robot, but
Is it voice?
it's an actual no, it's all typing.
Okay.
Yeah. But inside of Duolingo, there are things as you're learning the language. There's a bunch of different ways that they try to reinforce the vocabulary with you, and one of those is actually having you say the word, and then they check if you pronounced it and said it correctly, which is kind of cool.
Nice. And it'll tell you.
Yeah.
It'll say that sounds good.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. Cool app.
So actually, Duolingo is the language thing. Example of like learning how to learn. Duolingo is what I was going to use as an example.
Nice.
There were a lot of different ways to learn it. Like for instance, I was always taught like out of a textbook, and it was like, okay, here you go. Like in France, this is how you learn French, or this is how like the culture, this and that, and they call them bistros, and they eat French bread and stuff like that, and all this other
that
fun
sums
stuff.
it up.
Pretty much, and I throw some cheese and wine in there and eat that. So there was that, and then it was basically like memorize this little dialogue. Oh yes, dialogue, not monologue.
Yeah,
dialogue, which I always thought was really strange because I'm gonna memorize what two different people are saying. That doesn't make any sense. If I was an actor, performing some sort of script, they wouldn't say, "Okay, come in here and be both these people for me." No, like you're doing one person.
Well, unless you're Eddie Murphy, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Then you can do like 10.
He can pull it off though.
You're gonna be a baby. You're gonna be an old lady.
Hercules. Anyway.
So there's that on that end, and they've made progression, right? There's like Rosetta Stone did some different stuff, and then I think Duolingo is supposed to be the gold standard now.
Are they?
As far as like how? Yeah.
I mean, it used to be Rosetta Stone, right? They were kind of if you want to learn a language, this is the best way to do it, right? That's cool that Duolingo's kind of taken that over. I really like them. I've even gone through, I took lots of years of French, many years of French, too many years of French. And I've even gone through and done some of the French stuff in Duolingo just to kind of like keep up on it and stuff. And it's, even for a language that you already kind of know, it's still fun,
That's good. It's a fun way, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the gold standard now for learning language because they've really dissected like how you learn and internalize and understand that stuff. And it's not just reading stuff out of a book and like pronouncing these words or listening to like a Pimsleur audiobook and like they'll, repeat after me, right? Like you might learn to repeat some things, but it doesn't help you understand them.
Yeah.
But apparently the way Duolingo does it, it helps you understand it and stuff. And that's awesome that, you're like, even though I've had years and years, it's still fun. And I think that's a big part of the key.
Yeah.
Because no one is ever going to, what was the last time you went? What was the last time, you're like, oh, I need to have a fun refresher in French. I'm going to pull out one of these old, like, French level 3 books. Yeah. Like, you're not going to do that. It's not fun. And I think that's a big part of it, too.
Yeah.
So learning to learn better, more effectively, so that I can just basically do more and just live more. That's really,
That's a good one. That's a good one. So where are you going for your information? Where are you going to start for that goal?
That's a good question. I have a list of books, actually. So for all my different goals, the things I want to do and kind of better myself in, I've made in Trello, I have made lists. So like one of them is productivity. And I have books that support that under each one of them, which I've organized also. I have organized my books to like prioritize them.
Yeah.
I'm going to read them in this order. So productivity, which was focusing on the thing that matters, right?
Yeah.
I call it productivity on here. I've got the book, The One Thing.
Yeah.
Right. I have like The Power of Habit on there, State of Flow, things like that. And then Learning to Learn, I have a column for that too. And at the very top of that is the book called The Art of Learning.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a book that I recently found out that Tim Ferriss bought. actually.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he has been quietly buying, what would you call them? Undervalued books, kind of like stocks or something like that. He was buying undervalued books that he
Like
thought were really good.
the publishing rights to the book, or like buying
Yes.
it to read it, like normal people buy books.
Oh, he bought the rights. So
So
he
okay,
actually went out. Yeah. So not like a normal person.
yeah,
He went out and
he
he
bought
bought the
the book,
rights, the book, the
all of
rights
the
to the book.
books.
Yeah. He bought them all because he
Cool.
has this huge reading list. He's got like a reading club or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't actually keep up on that,
Mm-hmm.
but he has like a reading club, reading list, stuff like that. And apparently his list, who would have thought that a reading list would be voracious readers, but they are. Um, they read a lot of books, they buy a lot of books. So he quietly went around and bought a bunch of the rights to a lot of these books. Um, they thought were great, and of course shares them to his list. So kind of a cool strategy there, that he's done. But yeah, the art of learning, uh, by Josh Waitzkin.
Mm-hmm.
He apparently was the subject of the movie, and probably book, but Finding Bobby Fischer,
Oh
or searching.
yeah, good movie.
Yeah, is it called Finding Bobby or Searching for Bobby Fischer? Which one is it?
I think it's Searching for Bobby Fischer. I think the other one's Finding Forrester.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
All right. As far as the finding part, but yeah, Searching for Bobby Fischer is really Josh Waitzkin. Apparently, chess teaches you something about learning. So he, I haven't read it yet, but from what I understand, it's supposed to be a really good book about just learning better, doing a better job of learning, doing it more efficiently, more effectively. And he's done more than just, be like a chess prodigy. He's also apparently very highly ranked belt wise in like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like really mastered some other things as well.
Hmm.
And these are not easy things to do.
Yeah.
Chess, mastering like, what we'll call a martial art, and any of these other things that he's, really dove into. Um, there's something to it,
Yeah.
right? There's something to this art of being able to learn these things
Yeah.
quickly and actually, effectively.
Yeah.
Because any of us can read a book.
Yeah.
Any of us can read a book and get through the pages and check them off and be like, great, I read a book.
Yeah.
But what'd you learn and what are you going to do with it? And that's what I want to improve on.
That's cool. I like that, man. It's a good one.
Yeah. And as
Nice.
far as like system wise, I'm just going to read. Like I have a goal of reading a set number of books, a set number of pages, just read. Because some days I'm going to read more than others, but as long as I just start, as long as I break the ice,
Yeah.
what might have been planned for a minute of reading might end up being an hour of reading. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
You got me
And
thinking. It'd be kind of cool to do like a touch base in the middle of the year or something like that on how our goals are going.
that would be cool.
And for anyone else who has their own goals, it could be kind of a fun time to just reflect back and be like, how are we doing on these things? How am I doing on my goals that I set up?
There you go.
Yeah.
Some accountability.
Yeah. We'll all be accountability buddies.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
We had asked in the group, I'm not sure if you saw, Gordon, you probably did, post about 2017 goals and
Yeah.
what our members.
Yeah. There were some really good ones in there.
There were some really good ones
Yeah.
in there. I think some of them could use like constructive criticism. Some of them could use a little bit of focus,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
think that people need to really know what they want,
Yeah.
and what they're going to focus on,
Yeah.
and use some of the stuff we talked about.
Yeah. And if I guess a good way of summarizing it too for focus, if you just Google what a SMART goal is, make sure your goal hits a lot of those. I don't think you have to be super anal with it and hit every single one of them, but a lot of the ones that I think, not a lot of them, but the ones that showed up in the group that weren't that great weren't kind of very specific, or measurable, kind of two important things with a goal. So check that out on your own goals.
Right.
Self-activity.
Specific, measurable, attainable, and I don't remember what the T was.
I think wasn't R like reasonable or something like that, or I always forget what R was. T was like time based or something like that. Wasn't it with time?
Oh, yeah, I think it is.
I don't know. Just hit the first three and you'll be good.
Yeah, I think specific, measurable, and attainable really are important because again, it kind of comes back to: do you want a goal or do you want a system?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times you set this SMART goal, but then you still need a system to get there. And I think the first three are the most important.
Yeah.
Being very specific, I want this specific thing. Can I measure it? Like, how do I know if I reached it? I guess it doesn't always have to be measurable either, but like when it's a business goal, I think it does.
Yeah.
But something like, your goal, like you really just want to hit a weight that you feel good. Like you want just
Yeah.
not even, it's because not even about the weight. You're just looking to feel good.
Yeah.
So, you take that out of it, like you threw it in there to make it measurable.
Right.
But, if you lose 40 instead of 50, but you feel fantastic, like you're not going to be all down in the dumps like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be like, no, this actually feels really good. Like I win. Right.
Yeah. The measurement in that one is really more of like a motivating factor for me. So I can see progress towards that. Right. I'm not going to feel super different week to week, month to month, over time. Yes. But that's not something I can really measure very easily. So I'm queuing off of weight because that is measurable and I can see progress.
Yep. And it's also nice because your weight loss is probably mostly linear. Like you're not going to all of a sudden, at the last 2 weeks lose, half the weight you're looking for.
Yeah.
So certain goals, it could make it hard and to do the measurable part and look at it and be motivated, because if it's something that takes a lot of building up for, and you're doing this, you're doing it, and then all of a sudden, like, there's kind of like a grand unveiling, and you're like, boom, there you go. There's the whole goal, like the whole thing I can measure. There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that could be tough.
Yeah.
So I understand why it's hard to, like, for people to specify these things. But yeah, as far as like, and even SMART goal and focus part, like, I want to double my sales. Okay, cool. Like, how are you gonna do it?
Yeah.
And just work longer hours, or promote more, something like that. Like those aren't specific enough.
Yeah.
Like more specific systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what I mean by focus. Like identify, to go back to the book I'm reading, the one thing. Like what is the one thing? Like you could do just one thing. So you're gonna do social media. Okay, cool. Which?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of social platforms.
Yeah.
There's the big ones, but there's a lot. Which one? If you could do one, what would it be and why? What's the most valuable? Yeah. So focus. I think that's going to be really important.
MySpace. I go with MySpace.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
The underdog. They're still around.
They are still around. Yeah.
They look to be turned into more of a music platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting.
I think Yahoo's going to buy them. Yeah.
Are they? I think it's
might as well. I mean, why not?
Why not? Might be the best thing Yahoo has going then.
It could be. Could be. Yeah.
What's bad? Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance is actually not bad.
Yeah, it's all right. And there actually, if you do any kind of like fantasy sports stuff, like fantasy football or baseball or whatever, that fantasy stuff's not terrible either. It's pretty okay. I don't use it. I use ESPN, but it's not bad.
Is that just kind of a example of how bad the market, like the options are for those things though?
Yeah. There's a fair amount of people that do it too. Like CBS has a thing and ESPN has a thing and Yahoo has I mean, there's a lot of choices for fantasy football. It's kind of surprising, right? And I'm sure there's a bunch more for like really serious leagues who like want to have like custom rules and auction drafts and all kinds of crazy things that like I'm not that heavy into it, but
if you were,
if I was, yeah, there's all kinds of options. Yeah, it's kind of nuts. I was gonna say too, if it's okay too to have your goal be that you want to be more present on social media, but know that the first thing you're gonna have to do is figure out what exactly that means, right? Like you can make the goal without all that stuff planned out. Like don't stop yourself from saying this is a goal for me just because you don't have that done yet. Just know that's the first thing you're gonna have to do when you start attacking it. Right. And that's okay. Like, for example, the two that I have, the purging and the mobile app, I don't really have any systems in place. I mean, those are pretty specific goals. I think they're all right. But like the first thing I need to do is kind of plan that out. And so that I can make sure I actually have a chance of hitting those things.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. So there you go. Goals.
There you go. Goals, resolutions.
Systems.
Absolutely. And Gary Vee had an interesting, speaking of Gary Vee, he had a very interesting, like anti-resolutions or something. And his message was basically a 2-minute video about why would you wait till the new year to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is relevant. Like the new year is a nice catalyst and it's a nice like bump to like this is why we like cool. This year I'm going to do this, and that's cool. And I don't think he's necessarily anti that. I think what he is anti-procrastination.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's something a lot of people fall into.
Yeah.
The year starts, we get all pumped up about this year. I'm going to do this, this, and that. 10 days into it, yeah, that didn't really happen. But there's always next year. So like, if you failed at your goals already, right? And I think that's the problem a lot of people run into. Is instead of doing something, there's only 10 months left. What's the point? I can only go to the gym for 30 minutes. What's the point? It's the same trap. So instead of if you fail in your goals and you're going to fail your goals right now or 6 months from now or with 2 months left, like don't wait. If it's November 1st, don't wait until January 1st to start, bettering yourself and doing those things. Whatever you were going to do 2 months from now, start now.
Yeah, because it's still 12 months until the next February.
That's right.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. When that happens, like, it might take you a while to realize that you've fallen off of the goal, especially if it's like a fitness thing or something like that, right? Maybe you take a week off, no big deal. And then 2 weeks later, you take like 2 weeks off. And then you go on vacation, you take like 3 weeks off. And it's just like, okay, now I'm off the bandwagon here, right? That's okay. It might take you a little bit to realize, but then like figure out why did you fail at the goal, so that when you make it again, you can kind of like plan for that and figure that into it, so you're not making the same mistakes again with your goal.
Yes, absolutely. Try to learn from it.
Yeah,
and it's okay. Like a year is a long time, so if you realize you get to a point where you're like, all right, kind of like an 80-20 thing, like I got 80% of the way there, but the next 20% is going to take like 80% of the effort. And I really don't have the passion for it I did before, because I'm actually really happy with where I'm at right now.
There you go.
You can abandon that if you want. Like, as long as you make a conscious choice and are happy, because that's the goal of really anything you do, right? Is just to be happy with the result. So if you become happy with the result, awesome.
Yeah.
Go do something else. Like, if you're passionate about this thing over here and like continuing looking over here is like, I know I gotta finish it though, just to finish, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
But just need some more paint. Like, but why? Well, because I have extra in the can, and what am I going to do with it? Like, no, just go over here, do this thing.
Yeah.
Follow your passion.
I like it.
Me too. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Any closing thoughts on goals and resolutions? What was our acronym again?
DLBM.
DLBM.
Yeah.
Down low, buy middle. More. Oh yeah. Do less, be more.
Do less, be more. I think the Gary Vee thing was with the resolutions and kind of just acting now was kind of the closing remark. But
cool.
Do less, be more, and just do it now.
Yeah.
Go execute today. Don't wait for. That's another thing people do with goals, which is part of the closing thing, I guess. But goal for like the 3 times this week, and you miss it. So then there's like 2 days left in the week, and you're like, well, what's the point of me going today? Like, I already missed my goal 3 times, and I can only do 2. I can go 2 out of 3 times, and then I still lose. I'm just gonna wait till Monday.
Yeah. Start fresh week.
And then I'm gonna go 3 times.
Yeah.
That's a week and stuff doing. Just don't set yourself up for failure. Always set yourself up to win. So whatever system, whatever goals you put in place, make sure they like yourself up to win. Don't be like, oh, I can totally go to the gym right now, but I'm still going to lose, so there's no point. I'll just go to the gym next week 4 times. No, you're not. You didn't go once this week. You're not going next week 4 times. Come on.
Yeah.
I'll just do double the push-ups tomorrow. No, you didn't do any today. You're not doing 100 tomorrow. Come on, people.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So good luck with whatever goals you guys have set up. Let's continue the conversation in our Facebook group again too, because that's always cool when we do that. Feel free to jump in there. There's already a thread going on in there about goals that you have and stuff like that. So if you're curious and you want to see what some other sellers have in store for their 2017, check those out there too. But But yeah,
Yeah.
good luck with the goals. Would love to hear back from you guys about what systems you guys have found that work well for you. Yeah. Hit us up. success@marmalead.com.
Absolutely. Or post in the Facebook group. And we talked about accountability. If you want some accountability, there's a group right there.
There you go. They'll hold you accountable.
I hope.
I hope so too.
I'd love to see more learning from each other in there. I'd like to try to facilitate that more this year. But takes participation for it. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy too, because there's a lot. Facebook's tough for that in general. There's a lot of good conversations that get going, with a lot of comments and noise, and then a few really good nuggets where people will chime in with things that it's like, that's awesome right there, and you kind of have to sift through it to pick out the really good things. It happens, right? But it's not always easy to find those things if you're not reading through everything religiously.
I agree. Yeah, sometimes things do I don't understand exactly how they present things to me all the time.
Yeah.
But I'll be in there and something that was posted just moments ago will be scrolled pretty far down. So I don't see it.
Yeah.
It's a really bad place to do like any sort of like support. Like it's definitely not where you want to like try to get something like really urgent answered, because I think it kind of works on the sense that you're not going to reach a one person, but I think what they're going for is you're going to like somebody's going to see it, or like some number of people. So you have a few thousand people in the group. Somebody's going to see
Someone's
it.
Gonna
and then they'll start interacting. And if enough people do, then it moves up. But like if you're just trying to reach Gordon, like Gordon's not going to see it because it's like way down there.
Yeah, that's a good point. We actually used Facebook the very first webinar that we did to get comments and stuff like that, and it everything like pulled way out of order and everything, and it was kind of crazy.
That was chaotic.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah, like people were responding to other questions that had been asked a long time ago, and because people were engaging with those got pushed to the top, but then we would post a new one and got shuffled to the bottom. It was a bad time.
Do you remember how much we had to refresh too? Because some of them would come through in real time, like some of them would like auto update, but the other ones we actually had to refresh to see the comments and still scroll through them.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, that added chaos.
It was nuts. But you'll get good accountability. Yeah.
Yes.
Check us out. Anyway, I like that. Do less, be more. Other than that, we'll see you guys next time on Etsy Jam.
Till next time.